All right, I'm excited for our next episode. Cassie Brown, do the honors and let's get that intro.
All right. Well, I am super glad that we are videoing this. So if you're listening to the podcast, click the resource link for the YouTube because Rhonda Melogy does not have a poker face. And what we are about to get into lights her up like nobody's business. All right. So today we are talking about the 3 juicy systems that your business needs like yesterday. Right. And this, we have some internal banter that we love when we are in our zones of genius and things like that. And so usually this is where I tell Rhonda, talk dirty to me, right? Because systems are not my strength. But when she steps into this and she creates these little containers for my free spirit to operate in, it is heaven. So are we ready to get started, Rhonda Melogy?
We are absolutely 110%. And it's interesting when you're like, systems are not my thing, but you say talk dirty to me because you have experienced what it can do for you. And it does literally, it keeps you in your zone and it keeps me in my zone. We are both. Hey there, it's Rhonda Melogy. If you like what you're seeing, make sure to hit the subscribe button below so you know when I publish a new video, probably any minute now. Like our love languages are on a scale like 10. We are at a 10. And so it does not matter at any point working with Cassie and I, we are always going to start with productivity. And what we mean by productivity is really understanding how you were using your time. I cannot change that, right? We all have 168 hours a week. We got 7 days a week to work. How you are managing your time, like, oh, I've got this. It truly starts with a time audit. Like, I can't change that. Like, that is the work that has to be done. And literally what I tell people is within the first few days, you're already going to start correcting yourself. It's almost like that food journal that we did like back in the 90s. I'm dating myself. When we would put a cookie in our mouth and then the next day we're like, I don't know if I want to put a cookie in my mouth. It is another opportunity, and this is a Rhondaism, call my baby ugly. It's, you know that you could be doing more and you know your time could be spent better. And so it's literally black and white, like it doesn't lie. It's like the data, like it's like Chrissy's data, right? And so productivity means how you're spending your time. Now that we know how we spend our time, now we get to choose how we spend our time. And for us, what we use is we call a dream week. If you've been listening to the podcast at all, then you know Cassie and I have chosen a 3-day work week. So you want to speak about that?
Yes. I want to get into the feels here for a second because a lot of our clients that we work with and we take them through this first process, it feels extremely uncomfortable because they are very driven, focused, results oriented. But they're also like, there's certain areas in their life where they know that they could reach beyond. They know that they could step outside that comfort zone. There's possibly burnout. There's probably frustration. There may even be some relationship friction where their focus or their loved ones aren't feeling included. And we're passionate about people and businesses and the lifestyle that we want to create, but sometimes those things are at a conflict. And what this does, it allows us to start looking at that mirror of truth, where our time and attention and energy is honestly going, because you can't lie with the data that's tracked and then staring you in the face. But immediately when you're made aware of it, you start closing the gap where you're like, well, no wonder I'm not where I want to be, or no wonder there's specific roadblocks or obstacles in my paths, or this may have been taking a little bit longer than what I anticipated, right? Because many times we're trying to do the exact same things we did to get us to where we're at. But when you're shifting from one level of business into another, or you're looking at the fulfillment of your lifestyle versus profitability in business, there is room for evaluation
Mhm.
and for looking at and seeing what's not productive, what's not a priority, and what is sucking my soul, my time, my energy, and keeping my creativity in my zone of genius. Like we're creating our own sort of mental glass ceiling at that point.
Yeah. And
So I really love it because it opens up, it uncomfortably opens up a reality that it's like, I see it, but I choose this. And that's empowering.
and it's really like, I like how you said it's really messy and it's very, very uncomfortable. We had a conversation with someone today about that. And um, I think the dream week and how we have mapped out the dream week, it puts filters in place. And so all of the things that you may be thinking, like, how can I cram all of this into a 5-day? How can I cram all this into a 4-day or a 3-day work week? That's just unrealistic. And they must be charging millions of dollars an hour. That's not the case. It's not the case. It's the filter of
Yet. No, I'm just teasing. I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it.
I didn't know that. Is the activity that I am doing that I choose to spend my time on right now, is it really going towards really what our second thing here is our revenue generating activity? So if we look at Juicy Systems, number one, productivity, how are you spending your time? And then really laser focused in, it's almost like you can gamify it, right? I want to do a 4-day work week. This is how I'm going to spend the time. And you do less. You do less. Just because I'm freeing up your time does not mean I want you to do more. And you have to do that intentionally as well. You have to choose you. And whether that's self-care, hot yoga, whether that's self-care kayaking, whether that's self-care coffee in the morning with Kaci and her dad and Adam, whether that's coffee with Daniel in the morning, whatever that is, you have to choose it. Where we start to feel burned out is when things just go over us and they consume us and we feel like we have no choice, right? And so our next juicy system that we really want to focus in on is your revenue generating activity. I can remember I was saying all of these things. Daniel is very supportive, my husband, very supportive. And several years ago, I was doing like all of these things. And he asked me just this one question that today still resonates with me. And it was almost like a sucker punch. He was like, yeah, but how is that generating you revenue? What do you have left to show for that? What do we have to show for that? All of that activity. And I'm like, okay, I'm up for the challenge, friend. So if we center focus that like that, the system around your revenue generating activity, there's so many, we could spend 90, 180, we could spend 12 months just on that revenue generating activity. So what do you want to say about that, Kaci?
I love that you have a story about Daniel because I kind of have the same thing. Early on, one of the first businesses that I started was photography. I was a wedding photographer. And part of that is not only, showing up for the wedding day, and these are long days, like, it could be 8 to 12 hours. And then the editing process. So I was working out my systems for the editing process, and I was getting obsessive about the final editing process. And then the thing about it is, like, this has to be duplicated over 500 and 600 pictures, right, at the end of the day. And so Adam walks over and he peeks over my shoulders and he kind of watches what I'm doing for a few minutes. And he says, I love you, but is your client really going to notice the difference of what you just spent 10 minutes doing on that picture? And it was the reality of that question where I was like, no, they're not. And what's interesting is that led me to, you would have loved my editing process, Rhonda, because you talk about batch. that forced me to look at something through a different lens of like, I still had high quality standards of what the output and the consistency of results, but the editing process, like it went to a quarter of the time of what I was doing, and same satisfaction, right? So that wasn't a revenue like like sucking activity.
Mhm.
Right? So when we say revenue generating activity, what is really moving your business forward? What is giving your undivided attention? And so, like, I'll continue to use the wedding example. Like, was my full presence with the bride and the groom leading up to their big day? The engagement session, creating that connection and having conversation, checking in with them, going into emails or reminding them about certain things, praying with the bride before she walked down the aisle. One of like the best services I ever got to do within that capacity of being a wedding photographer. And I got to pour all of my time and energy and attention to that and the experience of my client, and not like killing myself on the back end that no one else would ever see, all while watching my kids play outside because I was stuck in editing. Right. So what are we working for? Like, I'll add that, on this to even emphasize more these revenue generating activities. What are you working for to begin with? It's that freedom and the flexibility to spend time with the people that you love, whether you have a family or you're single and you want to travel the world, or you have a fur baby that you just want to spoil like nobody's business. That's what you're working for. And so that's what we're asking you here. Put a system in place to check yourself, where it's like, am I getting too far down the rabbit hole? What is your anchor of focus?
Yeah, I think one of the boundaries and the filters that Cassie has been really forcing us into, like anything that we do, whether it's our website that we're doing, whether it's an offer, our mastermind, our live event, it doesn't matter. It's like, how simpler can this be? Because a lot of times when we think about customer experience or revenue generating activities, we're always thinking about our customer, but we don't think about what those ramifications mean for us. And one of the little tips or tricks that I want to just share with you here is, when we're thinking about revenue generating activity, a lot of us are online. Some of you may be brick and mortar, but I want you to think, like, go old school. I want you to think about what that process would be like if we were in the room together, right? If you were coming into the store, what, like looking around the store, what the transaction looks like when someone's paying, what that transformation looks like after they've received the product, and what that follow-up looks like. And now if you're online, I want you, you're an online business, which probably most of you are, like, what tools, what resources can we put into place that makes your customer feel like you were always in the room with them, but you're not? You should not, what is the word? Like, we can be our own expert, and we should not, I guess, devalue, or we don't have to work as much to kind of create that experience. Like, we've put the time, we've put the effort, we've put the energy into creating that experience. And it's okay if it leverages your time, like you're not present 100% of the time. I wrestled with that, because I was like, if someone's paying me this, then I have to be available all the time, because that's what they're paying for. Here's a quote: if your systems are not generating more than your revenue, wait a minute. Yeah. Yeah. I can't even do the quote.
You got
What
it.
is
You
it?
got it. Bring it
Okay.
home, hot
Okay.
mama.
All right. All right. Bring it home. If your systems are not generating more than your expenses, then you are trading time for dollars, and you will look out the window at your kids playing. And that's not where you want to be.
No, good stuff. Good stuff.
All right. So we've got productivity, which is all about our time management. Now we have our revenue generating. And then finally, like, bringing it home, like one of the three juicy systems that really I don't think people are talking about is the implementation and evaluation phase. So you want to talk a little bit about that, Kaci?
You mean actually doing the thing?
Amazing. If you can't articulate what you're doing, do you even have an offer? Do you even have a business if we can't articulate it?
Right. So one of my favorite things that Rhonda does is she'll do projections. And I don't know if she knows how much I love these. You know, she'll come back, you know, after a couple days or we'll circle back around and she's like, here's our projections. And and the beautiful thing about it is I've learned that if I just do what Rhonda has put on that sheet, it will happen. So our meetings are pretty much, she's like, okay, here's what I've projected. Here's step one, Kaci, all I need you to focus on this week is this. And so I just focus on that. And that's what's beautiful about it. And so I have a kind of a mantra that I have incorporated and that we've brought it into our coaching and consulting clients. And it's called decide, declare, do. And that's one of, like, indecision is costing most entrepreneurs the biggest opportunity of increased profitability and growth in their business. Just thinking and getting in your head and not taking action costs you more than taking messy action, making a mistake, having to repolish, adapt, pivot, or whatever. Because at least when you go back to the drawing board, you've got data to go back to the drawing board with, and you've got that lesson of life where it's like, oh, I'll never do that again. Right. And the next time that you don't do that again could be saying no to a decision that's going to legitimately cost you six figures. Right. So I love this part. It's one of the most, I think it's the least sexy of the processes that we're talking about. People love talking about sales and revenue. They love talking about everything. But when it comes to the action where the rubber meets the road, what if I don't have it all figured out? Like, what if it's not perfect? What if all my assets aren't built out? The thing, and that's just the way that it rolls. We take action with the intention of integrating each and every refinement of the next step. And that is the only way to mastery.
Yeah, we've talked about this before where I don't like talking about revenue. And it's not that I have a money mindset issue. To me, revenue represents people. And I'm more focused on people, and I'm more focused on getting them to where they want to go. That's more important to me. But an example that I can give is that Kaci and I know exactly what it is we're doing. We combined have been in business for almost 40 years. We have both walked the walk. We talk the talk, like we do the things. We've made the hard decisions. And so even though when we first started partnering together, we did not fully have everything mapped out, we continued between ourselves to have conversations like multiple times a day. Like sometimes we talk like eight times a day. And then I just call, hey, I hadn't talked to you lately. Like, what are you doing? Having conversations with our members and taking actions have led us now to basically the decide, declare, do, whether that's writing the copy on our website, creating the offers that are on our website, making the decisions with a 3-day work week. And friends, all along the way, we served those people that we have worked with at the highest level. And it only got better based on that just repeatable process, and literally has served us financially exactly where we needed to be. Business savings in place, paying ourselves less than what we were generating, and keeping money in our savings. So it doesn't even matter how much we've generated, but we are both very comfortable. We don't want for anything. And we are able to make decisions. Do we want to do this? Yes. Do we want to do that? Oh, let's wait on it. We can do it, but let's wait on that one thing, because I know we could put a couple of things in place that would only amplify when we get there. Had we worried about our brand board, had we worried about the fonts, the website, the beautiful funnel, all of the email sequences, we never would have had the conversations. At the core of everything we do are conversations. That is the secret sauce. I mean, you could call it a juicy system. It is the thing that nobody is talking about. And it is the most important thing in your business. I feel very strongly about that, Kaci Brown.
Yes, it's an absolute ruthless focus of like, what clear action do I need to take today? Right? Because, and we've even incorporated this into the way that we coach and the way that we consult and like the way that we structure calls and things like that. We can talk about strategies, we can talk about systems, but without that clear line of communication, okay, Kaci, I need you to do this today. Rhonda, I need you to do this today. Like, even if you don't have a Kaci or a Rhonda, or you don't have a business partner, or you don't have a team or whatever, like write it and say your name. I need you to do this today. You do that 7 days, 10 days, 15 days, 90 days. I promise you, you will be above and beyond where you thought you would be capable of, because you've built the habit of implementation.
It is the biggest thing that will serve you. And I think like the filters that we've given you today, like in evaluating, the biggest filter is that the action that you're taking, how does that impact your revenue generating activity? If you are spending way too much time scrolling on social media, how is that impacting your bottom line, your bank account? Probably not. If you are like any activity, if you're worried about like the funnel, if you just have a conversation with someone, I bet you could make a sale. Being in your zone of genius and having the right person in front of you. Doesn't matter. Like, we don't even have a beautiful funnel, Kaci. We didn't even have, like, depending on when this goes live, like our website is like really ugly right now. And if it was up to our website, we'd have no money in our bank account.
I'll even go a step further. Like we audit and we optimize social media presence and websites and things like that. Like my website links are not updated right now because they're being worked on, and I'm okay with that. Right? Like it's not that I'm bucking the system of optimization and not drinking, my own Kool-Aid when it comes to things like that. It's like, I think that's a high priority, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's a fallen priority right now because we have strength in relationships. We have strength in other areas of our business while we're building out other things. So like, am I going to overthink it? Am I going to expand ridiculous amounts of resources somewhere else that takes away from what's right in front of me? And I think that's what we really wanted to communicate today through this episode, is focusing on what's right in front of you that will truly move the needle forward. And I just want to, a quick note on that implementation and the evaluation, like what Rhonda said. I am a classic overthinker. And if you are a classic overthinker, I cannot encourage you enough to embrace this implementation, this imperfect action and evaluation, because you'll soon reveal to yourself that overthinking is not productive. When you evaluate your process of overthinking, or you start to tell yourself that story, that's just how I am, I have to think about it for, a couple of weeks, right? What you're doing is you are killing your intuition and your gut instinct. And the more you stretch that muscle and you learn to trust yourself, I think there's sometimes where I suggest something and Rhonda's like, that scares me to death, but I trust you. And we've had like that exchange of dialogue a lot.
Mhm.
but it's because we've learned that overthinking does not serve us. Trusting our instinct and our vision and our integrity does.
Mhm.
So I want you to get there faster than you may currently be and where you're at in your journey on your growth and impact in your business.
And I think too, I just want to say, because I've done this and thinking about the filter for the revenue generating activity. If you have done things a certain way in the past, because that's the way that you were taught, that's the way that you learned in a course, that's the way that a guru was doing, and you don't feel like you are where you want to be. And in the valuation process, you look at that and it's like, why have I been doing this? Why have I been spending the money here? Why have I been writing this blog post? Because it really, I can continue to do it to check the box, but it's not really serving that bottom line. I want to give you permission to not feel bad about yourself and not to beat yourself up for the actions that you've taken, because those actions really have got you where you are today to now make the decision to choose differently, right? And a lot of times with our customers, with our clients, we get to a point where they love what we're saying. So if you have resonated with the 3 Juicey systems, they get to a point, they're just like, okay, tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. So if you want to be pushed into action to really focus on the momentum in your business to start to see progress, you can go to freedom to look at that transition, Kaci Brown.
I mean, can we just pause and appreciate that? Like, that was awesome, Rhonda.
What? I don't do that stuff. That's Kaci. That's not me.
What? Take it, babe. Take it and
Yeah.
run.
So go to freedomtoimpact.com and go to the tell me what to do quiz. We cannot figure out the name for that, but it is basically, it's 10 questions and it basically tells you what to do, because that's really what we have found, like the language in working with our dreamies. They're like, everything sounds amazing. Just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do quiz. Go for it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Click the link. It's the first link. We make it super simple for any of the tools and resources that we talked about in today's video, helping you make it easy for your freedom to impact.